Hey everyone, it's Enjoy English School. I'm Chris Gorski.
I'm Minnie.
And today, it's May 2nd, and we're on pages 8 and 9. And today our article is called The Color Green.
那我们今天5月2号呢，我们在第8、第9页，我们今天的主题要来讲颜色哦。绿色它有几好几坏。
So in history, there are a lot of really big topics, and we like to talk about war and kings and queens. But in reality, history is made of many little tiny stories put together. And the color green is one of them.
老师说历史呢，它有很多的小故事有组成。那我们的绿色，它其实也是历史，也是故事的其中一个部分哦。
Of course, because we love art, because we love everything that art brings and gives to us, then we need to also understand the colors that make that. And that's what we're talking about today.
那我们因为在艺术啊、人文啊里面都可以讲到很多跟绿色有关，所以我们今天要来学一些跟绿色相关的小故事。
Okay, let's get ready for our article.
The color green. Leonardo da Vinci used many colors to produce his masterpieces. Surprisingly, he wasn't very fond of the color green, though. Da Vinci warned artists about using it because he felt its beauty would eventually vanish into thin air. He's not alone, since many artists find green a complicated and mysterious color. Green is a symbol for both good and bad things in life. It's often linked to life and new beginnings because it's the color of healthy leaves. On the other hand, green is sometimes associated with sickness and death. For example, green mold grows on top of fruits when they rot. The expression turn green means that a person appears ill. Pablo Picasso explored this darker expression of green during his blue period. He featured it in a death portrait of Carles Casagemas, a heartbroken friend who killed himself. Picasso painted Casagemas' cheeks green as a representation of the bridge between life and death. The French painter Claude Monet used green to create a completely different effect. For him, it was a cheerful color. Monet skillfully used different shades of green to bring out the beauty in trees and water lilies.
All right, before we begin paragraph 1, let's look at our subtitle, The Story of Green Through the Ages.
那我们的子标题它讲说几世纪以来绿色的故事。
Okay, so through here is our preposition, so we can't say in history here, but we can say the story of green through history, sorry.
那我们这边 through 它是一个介系词，代表说它经过了好多年的这种累积的意思。
So in history is iang de isa here. So we wouldn't say through in history, but we can say through history or in history. Those are both fine.
所以两个介系词2选1使用。
That's right. And let's get into paragraph 1. Leonardo da Vinci used many colors to produce his masterpieces.
那我们开头就讲到了一个伟人啊，他说里奥纳多·达文西他运用了许多的色彩来创作他的旷世巨作。
Okay, so duh is very common in many Italian names, and really, Leonardo da Vinci was one of the first people to even have a last name. About 100 years before he was born, people just didn't have last names in Europe.
所以老师说像 da 的这个字，它在意大利文里面常常在名字里面看到。然后老师刚刚还告诉我们一个小故事，他说里奥纳多·达文西他是刚开始人类有姓氏的一个很著名的名称。
So Da Vinci really just means of Vinci. Vinci is the name of the place he is from. So a lot of people today, we don't say the duh. Italians still do. But I, in the past, might say, my name is Chris from Gorski. Gorski means the mountains in Polish.
所以老师的姓氏也是一个地名的名称，就像 Da Vinci 是他来自的地方，所以那个他把他的地名出生的地方，然后变成自己的姓氏。
That's right, because if you go to a new city, I leave the mountains and I go to a city like, hey, I'm Chris. And that guy says, hey, I'm Chris too. So we have two Chris's now. And so I say, oh, I'm Chris from the mountains. And that guy will say, oh, I'm Chris from like...
Maybe the ocean.
The ocean.
有趣。
All right, let's continue here. Surprisingly, he wasn't very fond of the color green, though.
那 surprisingly， 他这边用一个副词开头，他说令人惊讶的是，他并不是太喜欢绿色这个颜色哦。
That's right. When we're not fond of something, that means we don't really like. When you are fond of something, you like it. You can also be fond of somebody, and this means you like them, but it's not like you're my boyfriend or girlfriend. Like, so I'm fond of this person. So maybe you can be fond of your teacher.
所以 fond of 这边可以画底线，代表是喜欢的意思。它不是说男女情爱上的喜欢，他的喜欢可能是对这个人有好感，觉得这个人不错，觉得这个人是好人这种喜欢。
Da Vinci warned artists about using it because he felt its beauty would eventually vanish into thin air.
哇，那达文西还警告艺术家们不要使用它，这边的它指的就是绿色哦，因为他觉得说它的美最终会烟消云散。
So vanish into thin air, just like Minnie said, it means to just disappear. We have it, but now it's not. Ghosts might vanish into thin air.
所以 vanish 这个字，它可以其实跟 disappear 有点像，就是消失的意思。
That's exactly right. We could just say vanish, but vanish into thin air is the phrase we like to say in English. But there's a little story behind this phrase. Okay, you want me to tell it? Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so Shakespeare actually invented this phrase.
Oh.
So we have quotes around vanish into thin air, like Da Vinci said it, but he actually didn't because this quote didn't exist.
Oh.
Shakespeare was born almost 100 years later, and he invented this quote.
所以这边我们说 vanish into thin air 其实就是烟消云散的英文的翻译，但其实最刚开始讲这句话的人并不是达文西哦，而是晚达文西几百年出生的Shakespeare， 那个叫什么啊？中文是什么？莎士比亚他讲过的话。
So Da Vinci died in 1519. Shakespeare was born in 1564. So it was a while different. But the point still stands that Da Vinci didn't like the color green. He felt it wasn't great for his art. And he also felt that maybe, there are other ways to kind of show what you were trying to do. He was a very creative person.
所以这边老师刚刚有特别讲到一个历史背景哦，就是 Da Vinci 他是1519年死掉的，但是呢，那个 Shakespeare 他是1564年生的，他们两个其实年代相差很远。但我们这一段要讲的是达文西他不喜欢绿色的这个小故事。
He's not alone since many artists find green a complicated and mysterious color.
那他并不孤单，意思就代表说不单单只是达文西他警告大家不要使用它，不喜欢绿色，因为呢，有很多艺术家发现绿色呢，它是一种复杂而且神秘的颜色。
So let's circle the word since here and write because. Many times, since just means because. It's not the present perfect tense.
所以有很多时间我们在句子里面看到 since， 不要想成它是完成式哦，它这边其实就当做 because 因为的意思。
All right, and with that, let's take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to look at some of those mysterious ways to use the color green. Hey, welcome back to Enjoy English School. We're on pages 8 and 9 in our magazine, and we're looking at day 1 of the color green. Let's go to paragraph 2. Green is a symbol for both good and bad things in life.
那绿色呢，它是一个生活中代表好事跟坏事这两者的象征。
That's right. Symbol, that Y sounds like an I. You can write that down. And let's go to our next sentence. It's often linked to life and new beginnings because it's the color of healthy leaves.
那绿色呢，它常常跟生命和新的起源做一个连结，因为它是健康新的叶子的这种颜色。
So outside of the window of my house, there's a big tree. I like this tree, and that's why we live there. I like to look at this tree. And in the winter, the leaves actually die, but in the spring, those really beautiful light green leaves come out. And it's so beautiful in spring. And then in a few weeks, when they're kind of older leaves, they grow into a very deep, beautiful green. And it's something I personally really enjoy. I just like looking at a tree.
老师说他家里窗外有一棵树，他看到他树冬天的时候就枯萎了嘛，但是春天它就会长出新的叶子。老师就非常喜欢看到那个翠绿新生的那个绿叶。
That's such a beautiful color. And then like in summer, they're so dark and beautiful. And it's really lovely. Even when I was a little boy, I would just like look at trees. I think they're really cool. And I love trees.
老师喜欢树。他的那个姓氏就是山嘛，所以老师喜欢山的树。
That's right. Let's continue here. Our next sentence says, on the other hand, green is sometimes associated with sickness and death.
所以我们刚刚讲了正面，接下来 on the other hand 我们要讲一个负面的。另一方面来说呢，绿色有时候也被跟疾病啊，还有死亡啊来做连结。
So we have these two great sentences where you have green is linked to life and new beginnings. Also, we have on the other hand, so where sentence is gonna flip, we can just say but this on the other hand is really nice. Now we have sickness and death. So is linked to and is associated with are pretty much the same way to say the two things.
所以 link to 记得是介系词 to， 但是如果你用 associate， 两个都是关联，但是用 associate 它介系词要搭配 with。
Okay, let's continue and look at some examples. For example, green mold grows on top of fruits when they rot.
那举例来说，当水果腐烂的时候呢，绿色的霉菌就会长在水果的顶部。
Okay, so fruit is usually uncountable, and so is the word mold. But in the future, you'll probably learn that a lot of uncountables can also become countable. But we're talking about 各式各样的东西. So when we mean fruits, that means kind of every kind of fruit in the world, not the fruit you're eating.
所以在这边我们会看到我们所谓的集合名词，它有时候是没有办法加 s 的，它是不可数名词。但是当我们把它加了 s， 例如像 fruits， 就代表我这边要强调的是可能有各式各样不一样的水果。例如像我桌上如果有超过一样水果，有苹果、有香蕉、有凤梨、有芭乐，这个时候我们就可以用 fruits 加上 s。
And let's look at the verb rot. So rot is one of those really great short words in English. In fact, a lot of the very easy words you first learn in English are some of the very oldest ones in our language.
所以老师这边我们要特别讲到 rot 这个字。老师说越简单的字，它其实在英文里面它是越有历史故事的字哦。
Now, the story of the English language is you have English, but then you also have French and Latin, Greek, and then you have the Vikings.
所以在英文里面，你有英文字，你有拉丁，你有希腊，然后接下来你还有
法文
and
北欧洲
的文，然后还有 Vikings， 就是我们说的维京吗？
That's right. And those guys were really tough. And they said, you need to talk like us or we'll kill you. And one of the words they gave us was rot and rotten, along with words like man, men, child, children, woman, women. Now, 这些单词都结为哪一个字母? They all have an N. That's right. So when you hear these adjectives or nouns ending in N, and it's a short word, it's probably a Viking word.
这样蛮好去记的。如果它的结尾是 an， 然后它是短短的字，然后很好理解的，那有可能它就是所谓的维京人留下来的字。
So rot is the verb and the adjective is rotten, R-O-T-T-E-N. That's right. And let's continue here. Our next sentence says, the expression turn green means that a person appears ill or sick.
那变绿这个词呢 turn green 意味着就是说一个人看起来生病了，看起来状况不好的时候，我们就会说he is turning green.
Yeah. Yeah, that's never a good feeling. You'll also just say a person looks green, or they can be green with envy. Envy. That's right. Envy is E-N-V-Y, and it means you're very jealous.
就代表你很嫉妒、很吃醋，我们就会说he is green with envy.
That's right. You could just say he's jealous, but green with envy is a really great phrase or PNU, and usually it kind of relates to American money, which is all at least a little green.
哦，对耶，美钞、美金都是大部分那个有点绿绿的，所以大家说 green with envy， 羡慕它有很多美金，就羡慕它有很多绿绿的这样。好好记哦。
Let's continue. Pablo Picasso explored this darker expression of green during his blue period.
所以 Pablo 毕卡索呢，在他的蓝色时期探索了这种更黑暗的绿色表达方式。
So his blue period was a time where he loved to just use the color blue. In almost everything, they're all pretty blue if you don't know Picasso. But he did play with this color green, and he also was not a fan. All right, let's continue to our next sentence. He featured it in a death portrait of Carlos Casagemas, a heartbroken friend who killed himself.
那他呢，也就是我们的毕卡索，在他一个伤心欲绝，然后想自杀的这个朋友卡洛斯·卡萨吉马的死亡肖像中，运用了这种技巧。
So before we talk about this painting, let's go to this next sentence. It really says a lot. Picasso painted Casagemas' cheeks green as a representation of the bridge between life and death.
那毕卡索将卡萨吉马的双颊上面画上绿色，以表示说生与死之间的这种桥梁。
If you take out the internet, you look at Google and you search for Picasso and Casagemas, you're going to see this painting. It's pretty famous. Casagemas looks terrible. Green, I said, was a beautiful color. I love to look at trees. He looks like rotten meat. It's a really uncomfortable color.
所以老师说，如果你现在手边可以打开你的手机，打开 Google， 你可以找一下就是毕卡索，然后把这个卡洛斯·卡萨吉马的名字打上去，你就会看到这张图。老师说，这个绿绿的脸颊看起来真的是像发霉一样，就是不是那么好看。
It looks really, it's a really disgusting color. He used this very, very light green, and it looks very unhealthy on a person. So, before we go into our next break, I wanted to share a few ways that we think about the color green. So, first of all, logos we know are important because they kind of tell us what company we are looking at. Think of the McDonald's M or the Nike swoosh.
所以老师在这边我们要提到一些 logo， 也就是所谓的商标。想一下，麦当劳的 M 是什么颜色？还有 Nike 的勾勾是什么样的颜色呢？
That's right. And the colors in those logos are super, super important. So think about the green and white cups you get at Starbucks. Starbucks is very careful to only give you green or white, and then sometimes at Christmas they'll give you red, but they still use that green.
所以像 Starbucks 的杯子或者它的 logo， 你就会想到它不是给我们白色杯子，就是给我们绿色杯子，或者是圣诞节的时候，它会结合这个红色跟那个一样的绿色在一起。
There are some things we will always find with the color green. We talked about Starbucks, but also if you want to buy vegetables, you will see the color green. If you want to buy like mint bubblegum, it will use the color green.
所以像是一些健康的蔬菜水果啊，你也会看到绿色，或者是像是我们所谓的 mint bubble gum， 也就是我们的薄荷糖、薄荷口香糖、青箭，你也会看到绿色。
But we will never see green on usually meats unless it's kind of some vegetables on the side. The meat name will never be green because we just think of the mold and rot.
那但是如果你是要买肉类的话，基本上我们是不会看到绿色，因为如果你肉类跟绿色连接在一起，你就会觉得这个肉是不是发霉了。
All right, and with that, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to finish up paragraph 3. Hey, welcome back to Enjoy English School. Let's jump right into paragraph 3. The French painter Claude Monet used green to create a completely different effect.
那法国的画家克洛德·莫内，他运用了绿色来创造一个截然不同的效果。
So an effect just means a different kind of feeling here. Next, let's continue. For him, it was a cheerful or a happy color.
那对莫内来说呢，绿色是一个快乐的颜色。
Monet used green the way I think about it, like the pretty tree colors.
And the lotus.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's the exact color he used.
Yeah.
Monet skillfully used different shades of green to bring out the beauty in trees and water lilies.
那莫内呢，他有技巧的运用不一样深浅的绿色来衬托出树木呢跟睡莲的美。那 Chris 老师刚刚有说莫内是比较接近他内心绿色的那种形象。
Now you know the word shade because it just means a shadow. And we know like if there's a lot of sun, you look behind you, you can see your shadow. But if you're just talking about a dark place, we don't use the word shadow, S-H-A-D-O-W. We use the word shade, S-H-A-D-E.
那这边的 shade 我们可以先想到 shadow 这个字，也就是我们代表说我们如果面光后面就会有的影子叫 shadow。那因为前一阵子有一个电影叫做 50 Shades of Grey 嘛
That's right, that's right.
格雷到50道阴影，所以当你想要讲阴暗面的时候，你就不会用 shadow， 你会直接用 shade 这个字表达说，阴暗或者是一个深浅的感觉。
Shade means how bright or how dark a color is. And that's why we say shades of green here. In English, we like to talk about shades of gray, just like Minnie was saying, and that means how clear something is. But that movie is about something different.
Yes.
All right. Well, with that, let's get ready for vocab review. All right, friends, it's time for vocab review. Our first phrase today is to not be fond of something.Not
be fond of 它是否定，它代表不喜欢。那如果你要喜欢的话，就直接 be 动词 fond of 就是了。
Number 2 is to vanish into thin air.
就代表说烟消云散。
We don't say thick air in English, okay? Don't check it in the dictionary. Number 3, we have to be linked to something.To
be linked to something 记得介系词用 to 代表说和什么东西有连结。
Number 4, it's our verb to rot.
第4个是我们的动词 rot 就代表腐烂。
Number 5, we have a verb. It's to explore.
在这边我们也有另外一个动词 explore 叫做探索。
Number 6 is a portrait.
就代表是肖像，它是一个名词。
Number 7, we have another noun.A representation.
Representation 它是名词，代表表示的意思。
We also could say representation, but representation 比较口语一点。And number 8, our last word is an adjective, cheerful.
Cheerful 代表是 happy 的意思，快乐的意思。
Now, usually we can cross out full and write less for the opposite. Cheerless is a really sad word, and I hate that we're ending on it, but here we are. So, with that, we're done with Enjoy English School for today, but we'll be back with day 2, and we got a lot of really fun stories for that. So, don't miss us tomorrow. For Enjoy English School, I'm Chris Gorski.
I'm Minnie.
And we'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye-bye.